can't even think of it, man. I didn't sleep for shit last night. I am living on Death Wish coffee right now. Worst cloning situation. Let's see. The suggestion was made to share my worst cloning situation. I'd say it was, for me at the time, probably doing, what was the name of that festival last year? Stagecoach. That was just on the matter. They had like 15 instance BI, or 15, 30, what is it, 37 the max instance on that, BIs to clone into, which was one of the experiences that led to developing this cloning process a little bit better. Just hate dealing with cloning to multi-instance fixtures just because updates tend to be kind of a pain in the ass a lot of the time. But all right, let's see here. We're 5 after, so let's go ahead and get started on this. So anybody who's in here on their computer, there is a Dropbox link in the description. Go ahead and open that, download the files from that. Don't worry too much about what those files are quite yet. Just go ahead and have them on your PC. They're just kind of things to follow along with, so that you have something you can reference as we're going through this. Good lord, that caffeine is kicking in now. I am jittery. Let's see. So as far as like what we're going to be talking about today, basically I'm trying to focus not just on the technical aspects of cloning, but on the why. So not just the how part, but the why parts, on like, you know, why would you set it up a certain way, the process of using certain aspects, so that you can kind of get into how to develop a process to use that technical knowledge with. I'll be covering the topic in a few passes, so I'm just going to kind of go in some broad strokes at first, and then as we get farther along, I'm going to kind of get into more of the nitty-gritty of it. But I'm going to start it out with just kind of a 2-minute rundown of my entire process. So anybody who's just kind of here for the Cliff Notes version of it, if that's all you want, you can pick that up and get out, so you're not sitting through 30 minutes of information to get the overarching look at it. But then we'll kind of dive deeper into that. And then at the end, I'm just going to open this up for a Q&A for any questions that arise from the process. I've got Zach Bosserman monitoring the comments for me and kind of keeping track of some stuff, keeping track of comments, because I'm not going to be able to watch that and explain this at the same time. I'm going to be proud of myself if I can do one at a time. So for the process, I'm going to primarily be using one show file. This would be the show file that I was touring with at the end of last year. It was a country tour, primarily playing smaller clubs and some festivals. It is a Q-Stack show, so for anybody who was kind of hoping to see like a process for my like completely more or less Lua run punt page, that's not really what I'm going to be getting into today, which is probably good news for the people who are actually wanting to learn how to clone, because you don't have to understand 5 years worth of code to grasp it. I will probably eventually do something with my punt page, but this is going to be about cloning itself. Anyway, as far as that show file goes, this was a Crystal Isle design. It was programmed by Mike Macario. They have given me their permission to share this information with the live stream. There will be a second file from a tour earlier last year that was designed and programmed by Trevor Allstrand. I won't be using it as much, one, because I opened that file up and I kind of left it in a mess. I didn't really want to clean up some of the things, but also some of the concepts that I developed during that tour hadn't been applied till I moved on to the next tour I was on. So it wasn't quite the cleanest, but there's some update stuff in it that I'll be showing you. One like minorly serious note, I am going to be keeping artist names confidential during this. That's just per conversations I've had with them, just out of respect for them. So anybody who is aware of what these tours are, I just ask don't blurt it out in the comments, because again, that is something I'm just trying to respect. Before we get deep into it, just wanted to thank a couple people who have been involved in this. Again, thanks to Zach Bosserman for the graphics on the little graphic design that we had for this, as well as for helping out with the stream right now. To my girlfriend Michelle, partly just to embarrass the living shit out of her, but also because she has been a involuntary sounding board for a lot of ideas for this thing, so I appreciate her patience in listening to me ramble when she didn't probably want to hear me talking about lighting at all anymore. To any of the vendors involved, I'm going to be using a couple of plots from actual festivals from last year. So I've contacted any of the vendors responsible for those plots and just requested their permission. They were all super chill about it. So just wanted to thank any of them. If you see any of those plots, thank any of them for allowing us to use their IP. And I think that's it. Any viewers, as we're watching, if you guys come up with any things that you would like to see adjusted to this, this is kind of going to be the first in a series, so I'm going to be explaining my file today. But next week I've got 3 other people lined up. Got Elliot Mountford, Chris Toms, and Jared Paul Rarick. I hope I got his names in the right order. So we're going to be lining up for that. So any suggestions about like things that you'd like to see polished up for future iterations of this, please feel free to let me know. I'm not deep into like live stream world, so I don't entirely know what I'm doing right now. So I'm very open to suggestions. Again, for anybody who's joining us late, go ahead and check out that Dropbox link, download the contents, because those files will become relevant as we move into this. So with all of the introductory formalities out of the way, perhaps let's go ahead and get into this. So before we dive into the depths of it, just for anybody who's unaware of what cloning is, if we have any like really beginner people in here on that grounds, cloning is just our process of copying information from fixture A to fixture B, right? So one thing that was a hard thing for me to grasp before I like actually started diving into this was that cloning does not mean that fixture B becomes fixture A. It means that you've copied the information from fixture A to fixture B, but there's no like active link between them. Like the hardest thing for me to grasp at first, I was thinking like they become the same light. So if you make changes to A, they happen to B. Maybe I was the only one who had that impression, but that is not how it works. It's just a copy process. And anything that holds fixture information can be cloned, whether it's a sequence, whether it's just a couple of cues in a sequence, whether it's an effect, a group, a world, anything that can hold fixture information can be cloned. So I'm going to go through just a quick overarch of what my process is. Again, this is kind of going to be like the Cliff Notes version of it. It might not, realistically, it probably won't make total sense, but again, just to give you kind of like the overall outline of what I do. So let's go ahead and switch screens here. So this is just a view that lives within my group's view. I've got what I've kind of termed paged views. I don't know if there's like a proper term for them, but I've got all my various different group views within the same view template. So this is my cloning view. I don't use the GUI, and I'll be explaining why as we go along, but basically just kind of set up a map here. You set up your fixtures that you're going to clone from here at the top, the fixtures you're going to clone to here at the bottom, and then I've got a couple of macros that... Uh-oh. Huh. Oh, there it is. I thought I was looking at the wrong thing. That's interesting. My macros seem to be a little bit off on this one. I wonder if I loaded an old version. Let me tweak this real quick. Please. Okay. So, anyways, cloning from, cloning to. Press a macro, we clone between them. But before we do that, we need to use clone fixture types so we can clone all of our global presets. So basically, map out what's cloning to what, clone their fixture types for global information, clone the fixtures themselves, and then we go to town with updates. That is the super abbreviated version of everything I'm doing. I'm obviously going to expand on that quite a bit as we go along, but that's the general process. So let's take a look at, so I've got a mock-up festival rig that actually was taken from I want to say it was, I forgot the name of the festival already. Let's take a look over here. Switch screens. So I've got, in that Dropbox, we have some plots, so main discussion plots, festival rig, Tatanka Ranch, that's the guy. So this is the rig I'm going to be cloning to for this. And what I will be cloning from, what I've got as my like clone source fixtures, is also in here as a plot. There's a quick like 20-minute throw together in Vectorworks. Don't judge me too hard. But anyways, this is what we're cloning from. This is what we're cloning to. So if you guys want to get those files open, that might be of some assistance as we go along during this. So let me go ahead and hop over to that file so we can basically prep to get our fixtures in and assimilate it into this show file. I'm just going to kind of go basically top to bottom the process of getting from somebody else's show file, their PSR file from a festival, into our file and then cloning into it, really going top to bottom on it. So let's do, that is not how you get to a new show file, but let's save this because I don't know what changed in here. And let's open up our house rig. Cool. So in the house rig, I've already got our 3D position set up. I'm going to keep it 4-screen for the moment. But we can see that we have our fixture position set up. And again, this is going to be a just a MA3D representation of this rig. I just went ahead and put in 3D positions to make our lives a little bit easier in this case. So this is the rig we're working with, and before I even bring anything over, I just want to go ahead and check that our fixture IDs and our patch don't have any collisions. So checking fixture IDs, I already know just from working with my own show file that I am using the what I'll call the 0,000 series. So I'm just going to add, I was using 3,000 something for all of the house fixtures. I don't have reasoning why. That was, I think, just the first 1,000 series that was open. So let's renumber these guys real quick. So we're going to have them all start a little bit higher up. And usually when I'm getting a PSR file from a festival, one of the things I've done, since I built this one, it's already done in here. But one of the things that I like to do is to go in and name all of the fixtures descriptively. And that is entirely for the purposes of, as you are pulling up things in a fixture sheet, well, for two reasons. As you're pulling up things in a fixture sheet, it just gives you a better idea of like what fixture you're dealing with, right? So like if I've just got like that default name that it gives it of just like that, or like I can't tell what the hell the fixture name is supposed to be. When I'm looking at that in, oops, that was the wrong side of the thing. When I'm looking at that in a fixture sheet, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do with that, right? Like usually it's just such a block of crap that I don't know what to do with it. So again, I try to just name it descriptively, one, so I know what fixture I'm dealing with, but two, because you can use wildcards to build groups, which I will probably get into later. But let me fix, can I like undo that? Because that was kind of really stupid to have done. Yeah, I don't think I can undo a patch move. I'm gonna reload this file real quick because that was dumb. House rig, check all, load show. Because I had some actually worthwhile naming in there. All right, let's do that one more time. Fix our numbers. So again, this is just to make sure I don't have fixture number collisions with what's in my destination file. Also, I'm going to be saying a lot. It's just a thing when I'm talking. Sorry. Okay, so there's our fixture numbers all set. Before I do anything else, I do want to make sure that I'm not going to have patch conflicts as well. So I'm just going to go check out my universe pool here, and I can see that I'm only using universes 1 through 5, right? There's nothing else in here. And for those who are unaware, there is a sheet style button on this guy that you can check out. And so just so you can see all of your available universes, I like using this, especially like if I'm trying to check for like RDM turned on or what universe or request or whatever. The sheet view of the universe pool is super handy to work with. Anyways, I'm gonna save this guy. Ooh, crap, what the hell. If I can hit the right button, save. I'm actually gonna say, call it PSR ready. Okay, so now we're gonna go back into our touring file. And that's us. We're gonna load the show back up. All right, so we're back in our tour file, and we just want to make sure that we don't have any stuff in the way right now. So I'm gonna go check out my universes here, and I've got some stuff what looks to be parked on right now because I think I cleared that patch out. So let's just say what is it? Where's our go? Unpark, DMX universe 1 through 5. Yeah, there we go. Cool, so there's nothing in the way, universes 1 through 5. I've got my floor package on 7 and 8, and my clone source universe is way higher up, which I'm going to explain here in a little bit. So we're ready to PSR. I know that this is clear. We can go check our patch real quick and see that just kind of skimming down these numbers, I don't appear to have any 3000 series in here, which means we should be good on fixture numbers. So let's go ahead and do that PSR, which is a partial show read for anybody unfamiliar. This guy. I'm gonna load this guy. Scroll on down. Grab all of you. We're gonna use them. And we'll keep our stage. The progress bars don't show when I'm blown up in full screen like this. I'll give it a minute here. Just reading through some comments. Yeah, spawning to max. Yeah, the sheet view of the universe pool was a very late discovery for me as well, and it kind of changed my life. Boy, I sure do hope this thing is actually running the PSR right now and not... Oh no. Oh, are we about to have this time? Motherfuck. Alright, I'm gonna give it about one more minute. That's kind of a bummer if we're having some bugs here. Probably should have built this in version 3.7. Okay, well, as a bonus piece of... Oh, it worked. Okay, you guys were about to get to see some extra shit, but it did not die. We are all good. Cool. So, let's take a look in our patch. So one thing I do to make PSRs easier, because I don't know if anybody else does this, I use empty layers to keep my patch organized. And one thing you'll notice is that if you have a fully empty layer, it will get wiped out during a PSR. So what I do is I keep a completely empty fixture, and it's kind of a weird thing to build. Basically, you put like a dimmer of your own version of a dimmer fixture in there, and then you can go in and delete all the parameters, which is how it shows up like this. Which all of that just to say, I put some dummy fixture in here that just fills up some space so I get to keep my organization layers. So if we scroll all the way down here past my dummy fixtures, we have all of our house stuff. So I'm gonna cut that, I'm gonna paste it up under house, and there's all of our destination fixtures. One thing I'll say, if you are working with a festival, oftentimes I'll use like the channel ID to use the house's numbering system, just in case I need to communicate with them. Like, there's an issue with this fixture, I know what they've called it, and I know, and it doesn't have to interfere with my own numbering system to keep things organized for me. But anyways, so here's all of our lights. It looks like they came in. It looks like they came in with 3D information, so I think we're good to go. Yeah. Cool. All right, so we've PSR'd. We've got the stuff into this file. Now we need to make some groups out of it. I need to figure out how to organize these screens more easily. Okay, creating some groups. So here's my groups page. Kind of got all of like my tour stuff off on the left here, and I keep the right side for house stuff each day. I've gone through a bajillion different systems on how to do this. I have yet to commit to one. So let's create some groups starting at, let's say, I don't know, let's say 8. So if anybody does not use this feature, the auto create feature, it is so wonderful. So I'll usually just start with that. I'll go to auto create groups, choose layer, and I'll grab all of that house stuff. I'm gonna start at 8 and create our all groups. And now we have our all groups right here. If I go ahead and pull up MA3D over here, oh, we need to get a session going here. Yeah. Let's get MA3D linked in here. Looks like we're doing that. And it's uploading. Cool. So, I wanted to open up MA3D just so we can go in here, and right now I want to hide my rig just so the 3D view isn't kind of a mess. So for anybody who does not keep their stuff organized in groups, it's super handy for this kind of thing. So I can just go to my clone source rig and wipe it out from being visible so that my 3D view is a little easier to work with. Which apparently it didn't quite hide that on the MA side for me, but that's okay. We'll make that work. So first thing I want to do generally is just make a layout so that I can work with this stuff. So let's go into our layout views. I've grabbed all that stuff and we're going to store this into our house view. I'm gonna blow this guy up here. Oh, actually, come on. Let's go into screen 2 with that layout. Okay, so there's our house rig. Obviously, doesn't quite look the way we expect it to look. So let's go into setup mode, and we're gonna say arrange, and arrange by camera from our top view. Cool. All right, so now we're at least a little bit closer to a realistic setup of this. Did I ever set up my encoders with this? I did. Wow, that was drastic. Okay. Cool. And usually from here I would also go in and color code them. I'm possibly going to skip on that for the time being until it irritates me. Let's go ahead and actually save a version of this too. Should have done this already, but usually I try to do save a version right before doing a PSR and right after because it doesn't autosave. So okay, we've got our layout built here. We want to start making a map of how we are going to basically get our stuff into their stuff. And this is where we kind of start getting into maybe more of a philosophical side of it, or I guess less of that, but like we're gonna depart from the software for a minute. How about that? So if I switch over to this guy, let's take a look at those plots. So included in those downloads was a file called one of these things, this docx file, clone source fixture purposes. So when I walked into this tour, the rig that I was cloning from, the virtual rig built in to clone into house rigs from, was a bit different than basically what I turned it into. Also, this is probably the first Chris Lyle's hearing about this, so I hope I'm not pissing anybody off. But I changed, so when I started with it, it was originally, I'm not entirely, it's been a while, but I want to say it was pretty much just like a truss of spots and a couple of locations of washes and strobes and blinders. There were no beams because of the idea that a lot of houses we're going to go into, most houses aren't going to have beams, which totally understandable. As I was going through, we hit one festival, and I kind of started with that festival rig and parsed it down, which might explain some of the decisions here, like the way the washes are arranged downstage. I could have adjusted a little bit more, but meh, it worked. So I kind of reprogrammed a little bit in a way that I could like give dedicated purposes to certain groups of lights. So originally we had the upstage spots, which were both responsible for aerial positions as well as for some key light moments. And then we had kind of washes just lighting up the stage. So one of the issues that I was running into with that is that when we would go into houses that did have beams, I would usually end up having to like either clone just from the beams, or I might like clone from the my beams from my spots first, and then clone again just color information for my washes, just to get something a little bit different going on in the beams. Because some of the issues I was having, though, were one, beams in most houses, especially in smaller clubs, are not going to have color mixing. They're going to have fixed color buttons. Not from fixed color buttons, fixed color wheels. Trying to read things at the same time. So trying to deal with that, like, you know, set the wheel to snap doesn't quite look right. So what I did is I went in and I added in some programming, started cloning from the spots, and then reprogrammed a little bit so that the beams are doing something that is different from the spots, but also they're never doing anything that is critical to the show, which is to say that, like, if the beams are missing, the show still works. But if beams are present, it adds to it. That way, you know, we're not relying on something that we don't know is going to be there every day. From there, I guess I could have this sheet open. I've made this sheet for a kind of a handover to Zach because he was filling in for me for a weekend, to explain kind of what some of these purposes were. So let's go top to bottom instead here. Washes are pretty straightforward. Downstage washes are lighting people's faces. Mid and upstage washes are lighting people's bodies, their backs. They're putting them in color. Nothing super fancy about the way that was set up. Spots, we started from having just our upstage stuff. Then I cloned into a mid-stage set of spots, which we have over here, which do pretty much the same thing, except I removed any information where they do specials, where they do key light positions. That way, if I had a larger rig that I was going into in a given day, I would be able to decide which lights are going to be responsible for doing just aerial things and which are also going to be lighting people. So I know that if I'm cloning from my mid-stage spots, that all of those key light moments have been removed from there. So spots that might be a little too far down stage for what I wanted for that, that would assist in that situation. Basically, it allows me to not have to go back and clean up, okay, well, I only want a couple of spots in this one, I only want a couple of spots in this one. I already know that I've taken care of that in the source programming instead. And then there were the downstage spots, which were also originally cloned from upstage. They also do plenty of aerial, or primarily aerial stuff, and they do some specials where lighting their faces was acceptable for that moment. There were some where you only wanted like the really moody backlight spot on them, and in those situations I removed those moments from the downstage spots. But if it was something where lighting them up from the front was also good, then I added that in. So that way, again, it's just understanding the purposes of what your rig is doing. Like, I really feel like this is kind of the biggest part of cloning, and I felt kind of stupid about how long it took me to start to really grasp that. But it really is about knowing, not just like cloning spots to spots and washes to washes, but knowing what each of those fixtures is doing specifically. And if you see here, like, I've got a note, like, if fixtures need to be cut from the center first. I don't know if I tweaked programming to make sure that was valid, but basically I was keeping track of, okay, when specials are happening, which spots are doing them. Because some days you'll walk into a rig, you're not going to have even 8 spots, and you need to know, okay, which ones are the most expendable and which ones are going to do me the most use from the original programming without me having to tweak things. Again, I've already explained the beams. They were cloned from the spots. I changed some colors up, got rid of any color snap issues, and they're purely supplemental to the original programming, just to make sure that something unique can be done with the spots. Atomics, Q-Pix blinders, they're pretty straightforward. They're not doing any fancy directional stuff. And there are a couple of Parcan rigs that basically anytime I would walk into a house that it was using like a 120K rig, I would go ahead and store that into the patch. You might have seen I had like a 5000 and a 6000 series. Then those were just a couple of Parcan rigs. And basically I kept them around so that the next time I would walk into one, if I had something close enough to start with, I could pull from those and then modify. I'm not going to get into that because that was a lot closer to just kind of really reprogramming a show than anything. And I don't think is as much relevant to this. So again, I can't stress enough how important I feel it is to really know what parts of your rig are doing. And depending on the style of show you're doing, this is going to change a lot, right? It's like if you're doing an EDM show, you probably don't need 3 trusses of washes to light your band, because you got at least, wait, maybe 1 DJ, maybe what, 3, 4 if you've got, what is it, BTSM that's got like 3 guys on stage. But like, you've got people that are in fixed positions, right? You don't need to wash the entire stage. So the way you're working with that rig is going to be very different. So it's a matter of not necessarily like using this format. It's about knowing what's going to work for the kinds of situations you're going to run into with the style of show that you have programmed. So that's kind of the overview of how this rig is programmed. As we move forward, I'm actually trying to get my brain back on me. Need a little more coffee pumping through the veins. Okay, so with those in mind, we can kind of start making some informed decisions about what we want to clone to what. So as I look over at these plots, I'm going to see, okay, well, we've got, let's look downstage first. I only have spots downstage, or washes. Yeah, same thing, right? I've only got washes downstage. The way the show's set up, I don't need those downstage specials. Yeah, pretty much ever. They're purely supplemental the way it was done. So these can all just clone to downstage washes. So I've got 10 washes here, and I've got 12 washes to pull from. So I'm going to pull from the center 10 of these. One thing I also want to stress very heavily is that it's super important to keep symmetry in mind as you're starting to clone, because it keeps the number of things you have to deal with updating later so much reduced. Like if I was to clone from the first 10 of these, and there's like let's say there's like an effect going from center out, right? Well, center is now going to be like off stage right all the way over here. Like this is the center line if I pick from the first 10 rather than over here. And that effect's going to look like garbage until I go and update it and remove individuals and do all that. If I pull from the center 10 in the first place, it's not going to do exactly what the original phase was set up for, but it's going to be close enough no one's going to tell the difference. And it's not, or rather I should say, it's going to be close enough that it's not going to stick out as being weird. So that gives us one less thing we have to worry about updating later. We don't have to worry about updating that the effect so that it's calculating, it's removing individuals, right? The individuals will work just fine in here. Moving forward, let's look at, so blinders, I've got 8 of those things, and I've got 12 2 light blinders. So I'll usually play around with maybe like what particular patterns I'm picking from. I don't think this show was programmed with any particular fancy effects on the blinders that I can remember, because we had some Nexus 7x7 panels in our tour package, so there wasn't need for that, nor were there houses that were regularly going to have 24 blinder cells for us to be using. So these are pretty much just kind of on, off, or doing a little dimmer wave. So I'll probably just pick from, I don't know, the center 4 of these. Moving on to beams and spots, let's go to our mid and upstage trusses here. And this was Tatanka Ranch, which was put together by Toucan Productions. So moving on to these, sorry, I'm blanking right now. So we've got our mid and our upstage washes. Again, the way that I've got them set up in mind, these are identically purposed in my clone source rig. However, I only have 6 washes per truss, and we're cloning 8 trusses per wash, or per truss. 8 washes per truss. In addition to that, we're also cloning 2 multi-instance fixtures, which is going to be a bit of a thing as we move forward, but I'm pretty much just going to clone all 6 of these to the center 6 of these washes, and then I'm going to reclone the outside 2 washes to the outside 2 washes of a given truss. And then I'll repeat the same thing with mid-stage. Looking at spots, we have, so this is a situation where we don't want to get like too literal with the truss positions. So I've got 8 spots total here. I've got 4 downstage, or 4 mid-stage, 4 upstage. Generally speaking, I am not going to be able to create a whole lot of positions with only 4 spots on a truss. If I'm using those 4 spots as like their own system. Like you've got, what, 4 positions you can do? You got straight, you got fanned out, you've got crossed in, you have X1 and X2, so that was what, maybe 5. Not a lot you can do with only 4 sources. If I treat these all the way they've staggered them as one set of lights, I can now have, if I set up my fixture order just reading them left to right, I can have what more or less functions as one truss of 8 spots, which will be a lot more helpful to my positions. And it's going to be one of those situations that I've got, oh, sorry, I do have 8 spots here, so that'll work perfect. I just take all 8 of my upstage truss spots and clone them to these. Again, we're going to go in order of left to right, not in fixture number order, so we'll set that up in a minute. And then beams, I'm going to do the same thing. I've got 8 of these things. They're just kind of staggered in reverse from the spots, so we're going to do the same thing with those. We're going to treat these all as one system. Which again, we have 8 beams on our upstage truss here, so that'll work out perfect. So let's hop into the MA side of it and figure out how we're going to map that. Let's switch screens here. Okay. Sorry, I was just checking some comments real quick. Cool. All right. Here's our house fixtures. We need to pull up our groups view. So again, I should absolutely color code these. Let's color code these real quick. All our spiders. So if you grab the group while you're in setup mode here, I can go to border color, and for me, washes are orange. Don't ask for explanations. I have none. Spots are gonna be green. As long as you've got a color system that works for you, that's kind of all I find that really matters. And beams are gonna be blue. Oh, X4 XL is downstage. That's right, there were two different kinds of washes. Should have been paying attention to that. Border color, we'll make you red just to differentiate. All of our blinders, let's just move you. Okay, that worked out. Let's try that one more time. Sure, good enough. Okay, so there's our blinders. Alright, so I can at least see by the colors. I know it's kind of Skittles on the screen, but at least helps me identify different types of fixtures in here. And usually I'll go through and take the time to like I'll filter out from this to create just the spots view, just the beams view, just the wash view. I'm not going to do that in this particular case. So let's start from the easy side, because the washes I think are going to be our biggest pain in the ass on this one. So let's start from the spots. The spots were super straightforward. Let's create our left to right spots group. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and cool. My keyboard over here. Get our set going. Now we're going to go into our cloning stuff, and we're going to, let's delete all these groups. We're going to store that here. Now, one thing that is super important to me is labeling this stuff as we put it in here. On a rig this scale is less critical, but as you get into something like I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream, Stagecoach, or anything where you've got like, I don't know, 5, 6, 10 trusses of stuff, it's super important to label what's going into these, because as I'm getting into pages of clone stuff, it's going to turn into a mess real fast if I don't know what's in what. So when I'm labeling things, I'll basically just say like, I'll put what kind of fixture it is, usually the location, since I'm treating it as one truss, there's no location to include right now, and then I'll say the number of fixtures in there. So I know how many I'm cloning from and how many I'm cloning to. Sometimes that's not a one-to-one thing. So that helps me keep track of like the way that I'm planning to map each of these. So there's our spots left to right. So just so we check through that our fixture order is correct there. I'll clear that out. We'll do the same thing with beams now. So I can actually just grab left to right and say if beams. So if you guys are not using the if keyword, I can't begin to recommend it enough. It's just a filtering tool, so like whatever you've got, when you say if, it will only keep whatever's in the destination object. That can be a group, that can be a sequence, that can be a preset, that can be anything that can hold fixtures. And that's a really easy way. Like a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll make one, oops, that was the wrong thing. We're gonna get back here. All right, I'll make one giant left to right group. I'll just call that like house left to right. Sorry. So I'll grab that and I'll just say if these fixtures, and now I've still got those fixtures in that same selection order, so I don't have to keep doing that over and over. That becomes really helpful again when you have just much larger numbers of fixtures. Anyways, there's our left to right on our beam, so I'm going to go into our clone view and I'm going to store that here. Again, our bottom row is what we're cloning to. I'm going to say beam, we're going to say it's 8 of these things. All right, so now let's look at, well, let's do blinders. Those are going to be easy. We've got 8 of those things left to right. Call them mole, and we'll say we're looking at 8 sources there. So let me go ahead and grab what we're going to clone from on these, and then we'll start tackling washes. So our stuff is, I've got source camera view, and I've got more of a layout arrangement. So static, we're looking at, again, I'm just going to grab the center 8 of these. I'm less concerned in this particular in the way this one's programmed about capturing the full range. There was a previous tour where I had this exact same setup for molds. It was the previous tour I was on. So what I would do if I was trying to capture the full range was I would try to basically spread it out so that the frequency at which I was capturing the full range, but also not capturing like the same cell on every light, because like there might be effects where like all of the outer cells would light up first than all of the inner cells. So if I'm grabbing just down the line like this, that effect is going to look really dumb in the cloned version. So again, just kind of general, there's a lot of things to keep in mind as you get to know the way your show is programmed better. Oh, I already created that group, stupid. Okay, so movers, we want 8 beams. And it just so happens we have a set of 8 beams right there. And I do want to label this mol 8. This one's already got numbering in it, so I don't have to worry about that. And then we're going to take our upstage spots and do the same thing. And that's got the 1 through 8 listed there, in case anybody can't see it. So I'm not worrying about like typing that one out, because something is indicating pretty straightforward what I'm working with here. Okay, washes. So let's take a look at our house stuff. So our downstage wash is going to be pretty easy. We have 10 washes left to right. Make sure I grab those in the right order. Cool. So there's our source for downstage wash. Make sure I label how many we're working with here. So there's 10 washes we're cloning from 2. Okay, that's why it's important to pay attention to that. Okay, we're cloning 2 of those 10. So it's going back into ours, and we're going to pick the center 10 out of these. And one tool I'll use to check myself as I'm going is I will keep a... Whoa! My buttons disappeared. Something went wrong when I loaded this guy at some point. Well, that's a bummer. Let's see if I can load that back real quick. I bet... Oh, it's probably not worth it. I thought something weird was going on. That's kind of... I logged in as the wrong user profile. Nope, there's only one left. Very curious how that happened. I must have only loaded part of the show. Anyways, so I usually have a macro on here that just runs a little Lua line, and I'll pull it up from an older version, that just it's a 1-line Lua macro that just displays how many current fixtures I've got. It's just pulling up the selected fixtures count variable. So list var, what is it? There we go. So there's a selected fixtures count variable. It's always keeping track of what you've got in your live programmer. I'll keep a button around that just shows me that at any given point so that I know how many fixtures I've got in each, just to double check that I'm cloning 1-to-1 when I am aiming to. So we got 10 fixtures there. We're going to say downstage wash. We'll call it 10. Cool. Now we have a little bit of what might be a hairier situation with these other washes, because these are all multi-instance. I don't know how visible it is from the stream, but each of these has another at least 4 instances. Or yeah, let's take a look at our fixture sheet. Yeah, so each of these is 4 instances of fixtures. And one thing you'll notice is that as I'm grabbing these guys, they are not selecting in instance order. This was kind of a hang-up for me when I was first trying to clone into multi-instance stuff. It took me a minute to kind of get it together. So let's go make, let's look over here. Do I have, yeah. So I can create groups just based on names, and this is part of where that naming thing starts to come into play. So I've got a macro that'll basically ask me to type something, and then it'll pick any fixture that starts with that in its name. So I can say select anything that is mid-stage, and it grabbed, if we look at our fixture sheet here, we have anything whose name starts with MS selected. Which is, again, super handy, especially working with larger rigs. That is super handy for me to quickly build my groups of specific fixture types on specific trusses. Get a whole, I don't know, 8 truss rig done in 3-4 minutes. So anyways, so there's our mid-stage group. I keep these kind of sectioned off at the bottom here. Got all of our upstage fixtures, store that here. Cool, so now I'm going to say all of our spiders, if mid-stage, there's mid-stage spiders, all spiders, if upstage, there's upstage spiders. And upstage spider. Okay, so we've got all those, and in theory, they are currently in patch order. Their instances are correct. Should it happen that you have done something that they're showing up in the wrong order and you need to reset them, if you're not familiar with the invert keyword, basically invert will grab anything in your you say invert and then you grab another object. It will grab anything in that object except what you already have grabbed. So it's kind of like the opposite of if. If you don't put anything after it, it will grab everything else in the rig except what you currently have. You do that once, you get everything except that. You do it again, and now you get everything you had in the first place, but now it's been reset into patch order. I picked that one up from Ryan Tanker on a gig somewhere. 4th of July, yeah. So anyways, and he was actually pulling that from the Vert 676, probably just combined 2 console names there, but anyways. So all of that to say, right now what we are looking for is we don't want our stuff in patch order, because mapping this to source objects is going to be a pain in our ass. And that's because, let's take a look at what we're cloning from. Let's say we've got 1, 2, so I want to grab these 6 washes, right? I'm sure I've got a group for them somewhere. Yeah, upstage washes. So we've got these washes straight in order. Well, if I grab the, let's hop back over here. If I grab these guys just by their instances, let me grab the upstage spider group. What we're going to end up getting is the first wash is going to clone to the main instance. Second wash is going to clone to the second instance. Third wash to the third instance. Fourth wash to the fourth instance. Fifth wash is going to go to the first instance of our next light, which is clearly not the way that we are, not the way we're going to want to work. Let me tweak something here real quick. There, maybe I'll make that easier for some of you guys. Sorry about that. Okay. Lost my thought. Okay, so what we want is basically to get these guys in their fixture order and then stack the instances from there. That might not make sense quite yet, but let me explain. I'm sure I have a better way of doing this, but I'm just going to grab all these guys. I'm going to do an matrix of 4. I'm going to say next. So there's all of our dot ones. And I'm going to say next. There's all of our dot twos. Next, dot threes. Next, dot fours. Great. Oops. I'll label these real quick. That would be a little bit more descriptive. I'm trying to work a little faster right now. Okay. So there's all of our instances. Now we grab all of these guys together and we can create a group of spider instance. Actually, I actually forgot how I would name these, but I'm going to call them instance order for right now. And then, oops, move all house spiders here. Spider fixture order. So basically I've got the same group pulled up, but just with different selection orders. One keeps all of my instances together, so all dot ones, all dot twos, all dot threes, all dot fours, and the other one keeps them in patch order. Because I have different needs for them depending on what's going on. So right now I want the instance order, and I want just the upstage of those. So I'm going to grab an instance order. I'm going to say if mid-stage spiders. And now I have all 8 of these grabbed, basically going 1 through 8 on instance 1, 1 through 8 on instance 2, and so on down the line. What this is going to mean, and I'll actually pull up the GUI clone option here in a moment, is let's take a look at it in a second. Let me store this group and show you why. So we're going to store this. This is our destination. Oh, actually, that's going to be a bit of a problem because we're cloning only from 6. So actually what I need to do is, actually I can just grab this and I'm going to say minus this guy minus this guy. So now we have just the center 6. So we're going to store, say, mid-stage, wash, and then for our count, I'm going to label it 6 times 4, just so I know I've got basically 4 rows of 6. So a source of 6 is what is going to properly clone to what is intended here. Because once you reach the end of your source fixtures, it just recycles. Which, let me demonstrate that real quick, and I'll get into the deeper part of this. Oh, I have 8 washes upstage. Okay, apparently at some point I realized that was an issue. So never mind on all that. We're going to clone from those 8 washes in there. Say mid-stage wash 8 times 4. We're going to delete this guy. Okay, so let's take a look at what that means in our clone menu, just to have it visually represented. So we're going to go into cloning, and I'm going to grab our source, say take selection, our destination, say take selection. And when we look at that, we see that, you know, as it repeats, we are going 1 through 8, it's going to 1 through 8. Then we're going to get 1 through 8 here is going to 1 through 8 again, but on instance 2, and so on down the line. 1 through 8 again is going to 1 through 8 on instance 3, and again on instance 4. So it allows us to use that repeating mechanism in a way that doesn't make us have to go build a separate group for this, and then a separate group for this, and then so on down the line. We can do it all in one go. So let me get this guy sized back appropriately. Okay, so there's our mid-stage washes, and then it looks like our upstage washes were the same thing. It's another set of 8. So I'm just going to go back into groups. I'm going to say our spiders in instance order if upstage. I'm going to create a second group, and I'm going to put that straight underneath here, which tells me that both of these are going to clone from the same source fixtures, the way I've got that set up. So I'll say upstage wash 8 times 4, and now we know we have 8 rows, or 4 rows of 8 sitting on that row as well, and they're all coming from the same source fixture. And if I'm not mistaken, that is our entire rig. So now I'm going to get into why am I using macros instead of the GUI. This was a thing that was introduced to me from Trevor Allstrand, and I can't even begin to thank him enough for that, because this has changed the way I work. So one of the issues with the GUI, first off, I just like having macros because I can, any specific preferences I have, I can just set those as options in the macro lines. So like, for example, I'm only cloning 1-to-1 on my position presets. All the rest of them, I'm gonna clone fixture types, and I'm about to explain that in a minute. And then I've got all my effects, and I've got my merge options preset. Some of them are low priority, some of them are normal merge, and even specific groups referenced by their name. That's something you can't really do in the GUI, is reference anything by wildcards using their names. When I'm building my groups for the punt part of this file, I'm naming anything that's going to be used as a group master on my punt, my little punt page on there, with MST at the end. That way I can clone just those groups over, but not be cloning the rest of my groups, because that will just create, I don't like cloning my groups over most of the time. There's very little reason I ever have for that, but for group masters for a punt page, that is super handy for me. So it is set up to clone just those parts in there. In addition, it also goes through and like does some color coding, so I know which ones have already been done, because I have like yet to make it through like 2 days in a row and actually make it even through just that much cloning without getting cut off somewhere in the middle. So just helps me keep track. I'm also very distractible, so I'm sure a huge part of that is just on me. But anyways, so you can do this in the GUI, and that's, I think, the way most people are used to working. However, let me just go ahead and demonstrate. I'm going to back up now because I want to make sure I don't kill anything. So if we look at our presets here, all of my color presets are global. There might be one that's selective somewhere, yeah, like that guy. But I try to keep presets global as often as possible. It makes your updates so much easier. And if you have anything that's specific to a fixture type rather than the individual fixture, there's no need to have selective information in there. You should have information that applies to all of your fixtures unless you need discrete or individual information for a very specific reason. So for colors, a color mix of blue from one aura to another is going to be the same. From one Viper to another is going to be, account for lamp temperature differences, sure, but realistically, most shows we're not going to have time to get that picky about our colors, or at least I'm not with what I'm working with generally. Theatrical people might rip my head off for saying that, but in this case, our color mixes are pretty much going to be the same from one to another of the same fixture type. Same thing with gobos, right? Like your position for a specific gobo on one Viper is going to be the exact same information to the next Viper. So there's no reason to have selective information in here. Same thing with your strobe palettes. Unless you're creating like your randoms on a fixture that doesn't actually have random strobe. Like that's one of those tricks where you can like just set a bunch of off-speed sinks and it will make it look random. Short of that, I have no reason to have selective information here. Delay times would be yes if sequences referenced delay time palettes in MA2. They do in MA3, but since they don't, I have very little reason for that as well, and you can also see I did not use a whole lot of delay patterns here. So the only thing that really has discrete info that I really need updated day to day is positions for me. So I'm only ever going to be doing those. But let me show you what happens if I just clone from the GUI everything to my global presets. So let's take a look at our clone menu here. So cloning. Would you stop that? Damn it, Windows. All right, let's go from, let's take our spots we're cloning from, spots we're cloning to. Prepare, we're gonna say all sequences, no groups. You know what, I'm actually curious. I'm just gonna leave it at all presets for right now. No worlds, all effects, no layouts. Cool. First off, I just hate the amount of time it takes for me to do that every single time. There's probably something you can set up for that, but so I'll hit clone and I'm gonna say let's do a low prio merge, sure. Alright, so if I go back to my presets here, we can see they are all selective information now. Every single one of those things has selective info stored into it now. And the problem with that, for me, is, let's say, you know, I've gotten to blast through and check some updates, but maybe I missed that there was a color off. Like every now and then you get a light that's got CTO in it, and yes, we'll hit that. And somehow, like, deep blue is what shows up on your CTO palette. That's a very specific instance I've run into, and I can't remember what caused it, but so you pull up what's supposed to be this nice warm white light on your artist's face, and it is Congo. And you grab it real quick, you kind of fade it into the right color, you update that preset, that's great, except if that's selective, you only updated that one light, which means now when the rest of the rig comes in that color, the rest of them are going to be in Congo, and you're going to have an even harder time grabbing only the ones that are still in that weird color and not the one that you just did, and it's going to be a whole mess. Rather, if that was global and you just updated that one and updated it global, all of those lights referencing that palette will now be in the correct color when they show up in there. So, can't stress enough how strongly I try to stay away from selective palettes, which was the initial reason Trevor had warned me away from using the GUI. So I'm just going to undo that and hope it doesn't crash, because sometimes undoing a clone does crash the desk. Okay, it looks like we're good. Generally, I would not advise undoing a clone if you have a recent save point. Just always save before you clone anything. Just it makes your life so much easier. So let's go back in and we're going to do this with macros. But before I do that, what is causing that selective thing is it's looking there and it's seeing that this fixture doesn't have global information there already. So we need to put global information there, which means we need to clone our fixture types. We need to do global cloning. So for anybody unfamiliar, if you ever right click, edit click on a palette, you will get in your fixture sheet all of the fixtures contained in that palette, as well as what values that's at. Hey, can we actually do feature sort here? That'd be cool. All right, that's fine. So when you do that, at the top you'll see all these FTs, and that stands for fixture type. I want to say I learned that from one of Alex Hughes' videos. So that's fixture types. That is global information being stored in there. Fixture type 1 is your universal information, and then 2 and on down the line are any global fixture types. These numbers correspond directly to your fixture type numbers in your patch. So this is showing us what our global information is in here. And just like you can clone from a fixture, you can clone between fixture types, which is what this first macro is over here. If I edit this and pull it up, we basically will tell it to clone from the fixture type we're going to be cloning from to the fixture type we're going to clone to. To handle this process, I make a a fixture type map. And in those Dropbox files, there is a file labeled F-type cloning map. It's an Excel file. I apologize if that's a problem for anybody to open, but let me pull that up over here. And I usually am just handwriting this on like a freaking napkin or piece of scratch paper or something day of. But I'll put in here basically what fixture types am I cloning from, what am I cloning to, and their fixture type numbers. There are a couple different ways you can pull these up. Personally, the way I always work is, if I go back over here, man, that lack of macros is really pissing me off. Because I've got some macros that I frequently use for this. Oh, here. Aha! Still got them in here. Let's get some stuff moved real quick. So I've make all the jokes you want. I can't seem to function without my macros, clearly. So I'll go through and like a couple different ways I can do this, but like if I'm not dealing with a bajillion fixture types, I'll grab all of my source fixture types and I'll say selection is world. And then when I clear out, if I turn off programmer only, at the very bottom of our fixture sheet here, we now have all of the fixture types that are still in our active world, which is showing me fixture type 1, which is all universal stuff, and then my R2 wash is my MK2 spots, my platinum beams, and my Q-picks. Cool, so if I'm going to be cloning from any of those, I'm going to go over here and start writing those numbers down. So I'm going to say R2 wash, and that's going to be fixture type 16, and MK2 spot, and that's going to be 26. I'll say plat. Screw it. 39, and I've got realistically no presets to clone here, but why not? Let's say qpix 47.1.2, and I'm specifying that one because over in our fixture sheet that's what's specified. In a multi-instance fixture, you can clone from specific, I guess we could call them instance types or fixture type instances, because each fixture type's instances have kind of their own set of information as well. If it ends in a .1.1, you can just reference the main number. If it ends in .1. anything else, I type out the full thing, so I specify which part of it I'm cloning from. I actually kind of forget the behavior if you just grab all of this type at once. I don't remember if it does both of them or if it just defaults to the first instance. But anyways, so that is what we've got from what we're cloning from. Now I'm going to go and do the same thing for what we're cloning to. So I'm going to go back to our lighting world, which is world 1, and I'm going to grab all these guys that we're cloning to, and world is selection again. And now, when I go to the bottom of this sheet, we have all of those things we're cloning to. So, could have changed some of my fixture types here, but our dimmer is, is going to be fixture type 60. Okay, and then we're going to have 61 as our X4 XL. That's going to clone from our wash, so we're going to say 61 X4 XL. I'm actually going to create another row here because I'm going to copy, again, I'm usually writing this, so it's much less much less easy to read most days. Okay, so we also want to clone our spiders in there. So all of our spider instances, which are just .1 and .2 as far as types go, are our destination. So 61.1.1, so 62, yeah, .1.2, and that's going to be our spiders. VL4Ks are going to be what we clone from spots, so we're going to call that's 63. VL 4000, and beams are going to be also platinum beams, but probably in a different mode. So 64, and realistically, what I should have done first is check that I had any duplicates to existing fixture types. If anybody wants me to go over it in the Q&A, there is a way to actually store your global presets into your fixture profile, and that's something I use a lot during festival season. Anytime I run into a fixture type at a festival and get all my updates done there, I'll go ahead and store all of those global presets into that fixture type so that the next time I run into it, I just import that profile, merge those presets back in, and all of my tweaks from the last time I used them are already done. So realistically what I should have done is check to see if I had platinum beams in the same mode already in my show file with their presets updated, and then switched these to those if I did. I don't know if that's the case, but that is a step you should take earlier on. That's the biggest misstep I make. I'm doing all right. So cool, there's our map. So we are going to be cloning from fixture types these to fixture types these. Again, I want to make it my one-to-one map, what fixtures are cloning to what fixtures first, because I'll have days where I've actually got a show file that I'm going to pull up later for this, where like I have nothing but washes in the rig, but I've got like 50 of them. So on those days, I'm going to purpose some of them as spots. So even though I want their fixture information coming from spots, I want all of their colors to be consistent. I don't want to pull the colors from the spots for half of those washes and then from my source washes from the other half, because when they're all in saturate red, they should all look the same. When they're all in CTO, they should all look the same. So I'll pull my fixture type info maybe from one source, even if and kind of do some merging. You kind of can get into some layering with it. I feel like I'm gonna butcher that if I go any deeper into it right now. So anyways, figure out what's cloning to what first, then make your fixture type map once you know what fixture types information you're going to need. And then let's get into running the macros. Top of the last one used. I've got a question asking if I'm always stacking my show file on top of the last one I used. Usually no. And that is why I'll export my stuff to my global presets to my fixture profile to import later, is because I'll usually have like a start file, whether it's festival season or whether I'm going to day to day. I'll usually prefer to kind of have a clean start file, and then any changes I'm making, I'll take notes of them, or if they're really big, then I will keep it and then clean it back up. But usually no, I'm usually starting from, I guess, a clean file. I feel like clean is a strong word for my organization skills some days, but yes, a clean file. Yes, thank you, Zach, for answering that one. Cool. So these are our fixture type numbers. Let's get them cloned over here. I am focused on the wrong window. So now that we've made that map, I can go back into world 1. And we're going to start running our clone macros. So with that map pulled up, maybe I can just kind of do a little split screen here. I don't know, something here. Okay, nope, that's not going to work at all. Yeah, close enough. Nope, nope. I tried a thing. It failed. Oh my God, how many times do I have to explain this one? Yeah, it's just not being cooperative. Fuck it. Okay, fixture types. We're cloning fixture types. I give up on Windows. So we're going to clone from 16 to 61. We're going to go back over here, hide this window. So clone fixture types. We're going to go from 16 to 61. I'm just going to go on down the line. I will usually default to a low prio merge. So let me explain what those options mean real quick. You have 3 merge options, and there's actually another file over here explaining our merge options. Clone options explanation. It's another Excel file that's opening. And this is just a really basic rundown. It is explained in the help menu, but I didn't see a graphic representation. If it is somewhere, I thoroughly apologize, I missed it. But you have three main options. Well, 3 merge options. You have overwrite, you have merge, and you have low priority merge. When you overwrite, it will essentially delete all information in the destination object and then copy information over. So in this example, even though fixture B was already green, the console went and wiped out that data and then just dropped in fixture A's data. So that's gone. Merge means that anytime that it will keep everything that the original fixture was doing. However, any new information posed by the clone source fixture will overwrite. So there's no conflict here, so nothing got overwritten. However, when fixture B went to yellow, fixture A was turning red, so that overwrites that piece of information, and so on down the line. Low priority merge flips the priority of that. So if if both items are doing something at a given, in this case in a queue, it will give priority to the destination fixture's existing information. So since fixture B already had yellow, when you do a low priority merge, it stays yellow. It will only allow you to write new information in there if existing information isn't already present. So I default to low priority merge. When I'm dealing with presets, that's kind of my default, so that if I need to clone from multiple fixture types into one fixture type, I'll always start with the one whose information I want prioritized. But in some cases, maybe like if I'm cloning from a wash, I don't know, maybe like that wash, the source fixture didn't have certain strobe options I'm going to need to use them as spots. So then I'll also clone from spots, low priority merge, so that any information that was lacking from the washes will be filled in by the spots. When I'm cloning sequences, I usually tend to default to normal merge. I very, very, very rarely use overwrite. Overwrite is one of those like, oh shit, I fucked it up, I need to start over, and my last save point is way too far back, or whatever it is, but I need to wipe out the existing information. That is a do not use unless you specifically need it kind of event. So those are our three options, and these are the tags you use to get them. Again, it's just overwrite, merge, and low prio merge. So let's switch back over here. So I'm going to do a low prio merge on that. And I'm going to keep on going down my fixture list here, which I can make a little bit bigger for this. So I'm going to go from 16 to 62.1.1, low prio merge again. I'm just keep going down the line. Six to 63, 39 to 64. And then 47.12 to 60, which I doubt I even need to bother with, but okay. So now all of my fixture type info should be cloned, and as I check on that, I'm gonna grab these and see what they have. I really didn't ask you to do that. All right, let's get screen 2 back in here and screen 1. Cool. So now if I grab any of these, we will see that, should be seeing that they have all of these colors. Huh. That's a new one. I wonder if that's a change in how I somehow embedded the fixture. Oh, I just hadn't released it, dummy. Okay. So now when I grab these, we can see that that these fixtures have all of these colors, even though there's still only global information stored into them, which lets us know that our fixture type cloning worked. So I'll just go down the line real quick and check that they all have, well, molds don't have colors, washes have them, and all of these washes have them. So we know that our fixture type cloning worked. I should have saved before that. I'm going to go ahead and save now. Pre 1-to-1 clone. So now that that's done, now our 1-to-1 cloning won't force the addition of preset information as it finds it missing, because it won't be missing. So now we get into our clone macro. And again, just to show everybody this in case they want to reference it for later, this is what the macro looks like. It's just asking clone from what, clone to what, and then it will say clone from that fixture type, that to that, if all of our presets. So star.star means all fixture types, all preset types, all presets within that pool. And then I just wipe out those variables again. So that's the whole macro. It's really 3 lines. All right, so that's that part, and then we get into our clone group part. So this is where I just start mapping 1-to-1, and I think this is a good time to explain what this is doing. So same thing, we're asking what group are we cloning from, what group are we cloning to. I make sure I'm in world 1. I was using a clone filter for a while, generally a good practice, especially if you're like cloning to any fixture. First off, if you got a fixture with like the UV lights, like the Sola spot, I just go into the patch and wipe those things out. I turn them into a dummy channel. I'm sure they're useful for some things, but they screw up the color mixing so bad because MA tries to account for them in the colors that I completely remove them as color information. There's a cat under my feet. So anyways, I'll use a clone filter generally, but it's kind of really only good for dealing with situations where you have like color mix options you're trying to avoid. I used to have some update queue lists, and you'll see that in the other show file in a little bit, that I would unlock to clone things to and then relock. And then we start the actual cloning process. So we clone all of our position presets, again, because that's the only place I really have selective information I care about. I'll clone all of our effects. So we want to do all those before sequences because we want to make sure those exist before we clone our sequences. Then we clone our sequences, all sequences, and then we handle our groups. So now let me discuss some of the options on these. So I don't know why specifically on position presets I pick low priority merge. Oh, I know why. Because if I do some updates and then I realize I need to clone something else, if I've already done position updates, the last thing I want to do is redo them. So I keep this as low priority merge. Just all I really need from the clone is to make sure that these exist. Once they exist for that fixture, the rest of the updating is on me. So if I've started updates, I don't want that overwritten 99 times out of 100. Effects. This PMC stands for prefer mixed color, so that's a color transform option. If anybody's unaware, when you are cloning, it will do some calculations to figure out, okay, well, this fixture only has RGB, but this destination fixture has RGBW, or you're going from RGB to a fixed color wheel or whatever. So it does some transformation. That's the only like cross-cloning capability that MA really supports, is changing your color types as you go. So that's just, it says keep it mixed color when at all possible. I try to avoid the color wheel kind of whenever I can if I have mixed color available. So that's what that's there for, and that's the same purpose over on the sequences. All these /NCs just mean no confirm, so it's not going to give me a pop-up asking. It's just going to use these options and keep moving. And yeah, same thing with our groups. Anything that ends in MST, that is just for my punt page. And then it just colors some stuff so I can keep track of what's been cloned. So do we have questions? Before I jump ahead, I'm going to go ahead and start hitting these, but any questions about the options I'm using there, go ahead and start posting those so we can address them while we're here. But now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to say group 1001 to 1201. We can see that's cloned. 1003 to 1203. 1005 to 1205. Oops. 1007 to 1207. 1009 to 1209. 1009 to 1225. Yeah. And I've kind of got these colors set up so that the one it's being cloned from is always brighter than the one being cloned to, just to make sure I didn't fat finger anything. And then anything that was previously cloned turns black as I move through, so I know that it's been handled. Cedric, I am glad to hear you are happy with Zach handling the comments here, because that is making my life so much better. Cloning mixed into a color wheel set. So yeah, it has been brought up on the side. You can clone into fixed color wheel. So like if you're cloning into a beam, you can absolutely clone from a color mix source into that beam, which was one of the issues I was running into on this tour, was that not the fact that you could clone, that wasn't a problem. It was the fact that I was cloning from color mix, which meant there were nice pretty fades. And if you have if you're unaware, a fixed color wheel generally kind of really doesn't do nice pretty fades at all. So that was one of the things. But yeah, you can totally clone from a color mix source into a color wheel, and you can even have it force both of those things. So you can have it force each color preset to have both fixed color wheel and color mix. So if you've got some kind of specific updates you want to do there, totally an option. Or fixture type, yeah, like I've said, fixture type cloning has changed my world again, because everything has stayed global here, which means my updates will be maintained in the way that I want them to be, which is not a bunch of selective information that I can very easily lose track of which ones have been updated and which ones haven't. And just to add to that, I mean, let's say you add two more of a fixture type into your show. If it's all selective, I mean, you can clone your presets over, but it's one more step you have to take, whereas when it's using global information, it's just there and ready to go. And yeah, fixture type clone also completely works with those color transform options. Jesus, words. Yeah. I see you up there, Elliot. Cool. So that's kind of the rundown. So the question came up how to clone fixture type. So in that macro, we are specifically saying clone fixture type, which is hold MA and then hit the fixture button is what will pull that into the command line for you. But that is as opposed to just fixture number. And again, I pulled those numbers up using the fixture sheet. You can also just go into your patch and like go to that layer and you'll see, okay, our dimmers here are fixture type 60, X4 XLs are 61, spiders are 62. This doesn't give you like the sub fixture type number, so like for the spiders it doesn't tell me until I go all the way to fixture types, edit this, and go into our module manager that, okay, our main module is .1 and our RGBW cluster is .2, whereas the fixture sheet will show you that right off the bat, which is part of why I use that, and partly just because I can just grab some groups, use a world macro, and all of a sudden that's the only information I see. Cool. I think I hit the questions with that. Okay, cool. So I'm going to keep going with this, although I'm not sure that there is actually a whole lot more to hit, because at that point, our cloning's done. From here, we're just doing updates. So that is the very, very fleshed out version of that 2-minute rundown I gave about an hour ago. So let me see if there's anything else that might be worth hitting on as far as the clone process itself. But I think that's really it. After that, I've got some stuff that helps me with my updates. Some of them are just kind of generic programming tricks. Like I've got, I don't know, some pan tilt macros that will invert either of them. We'll do a flip until I find the right one. I can extract certain information from certain presets to combine like my pans from one position with the tilts from another to make a new position. And in effects, I've got some stuff that, oh my god, this isn't right at all. Oof. Big oof. Damn. Oh, there it is. Okay, they didn't move too far. So I've got some like conversion, those aren't really it's more copying effect lines really. Anyways, I've got a copy effect line in here somewhere, so like if you want to reset a fixture order, you can copy one line, and then you can put only your newly cloned fixtures into that line so you're not screwing up the source information, especially if those source fixtures are also live, like if you're cloning from your floor package. But yeah, I guess kind of just to show that all worked, since I just told you that it worked, but I haven't actually shown you any of that. Let's take a look here. So I'm going to switch into MA3D real quick. I'm going to keep my clone source rig turned off, but I am going to add in our floor package. Oh, that wasn't the right button at all. There it is. There's our floor package. Let's go into full screen here. Okay. Sure, good enough. And if I just pick any old song in here, let's get the hybrid view going. Shrink you just a little bit. We'll scoot over here. And one thing you can do that I haven't brought up, I actually pulled this from Max Linux. If you're trying to like clone between rigs and you're really working on your updates and you want to see what it looks like on one and the other, instead of hiding and unhiding groups in MA3D, you can... Oh yeah, I'll hit that. Thank you, Zach. You can just like position your second stage beside your first stage, and you can see them both going at the same time and figure out, oh, well that's supposed to look like that, and what I've got right now looks like shit. I should fix that. I'm just gonna pull up a couple songs, and I've got some more questions to address here. So, So my positions are probably not going to be completely right. So first thing I'm noticing is that everything appears to be aimed the wrong way. oh, some of our stuff appears to be aimed the wrong way, and that's some stuff we would flip. Probably in MA3D. I'm not going to worry too much about it right now because, again, yeah, we're just demonstrating kind of how to get the information from one to the other. Flipping fixtures is not a huge deal, but this would be about the time I would like check like a fan out position or a downstage center position, and then go into my live patch and start figuring out what pans need to be inverted, what tilts need to be inverted, what pan offsets need to happen, and then that little presets to offsets thing. If I see that we've got some not thoroughly homed fixtures in there, then I might hit that as well. But anyways, so we can see we have some general information going on here. There are a couple of cues here, I'm sure, that will show that our clone worked out right. Somewhere. We've got to have some big old left to right effects in here somewhere, right? Yeah, so there we go. There's something that kind of shows us that our left to right mapping worked out the way we wanted. So if I zoom in on our layout view here as well, we can see that like our left to right mapping is correct. So we don't have any like weird symmetry with shit starting like halfway to stage right or something. Like all of our symmetry is preserved, so I don't even have to do anything with that effect. Because if I go into that effect, we will see that it is... Oh my god, even the effect view is all screwed up. Man, I must have done one stupid move before this thing started. Somewhere in here is a live effect that I may or may not be able to find. My off menu tell me where it is? It will not. That's a bummer. Well, oh well. I would show you where it is, but apparently I screwed that part up, so my bad. Let's see, we had some questions, but anyways, that's just kind of showing that the symmetry is preserved. So even though that effect has individual phases in it right now, it works the way that we've mapped it because we made sure it was symmetrical before we dove too far into it. Apparently my MA3D view wasn't the cleanest because that center ain't the most centered. That's an interesting one. Okay, what's our questions here? Let's see. So show file only has current rig and original info. Yeah, well, off didn't work because it's inside of a queue rather than running like as a separate effect. I know there's a way to say, I think there's a running effects window. Okay. So from 6 fixtures to 8 fixtures. So yeah, let's hit that situation. So actually, let me go ahead and save this as post-cloned. And let's go back and let's recreate that doing the mid-stage washes from a set of 6. Let's say that's all we had. So let's go into there, load it, and I'll go back to our 4K here. Okay, so the question was brought up, like, how do we clone from 6 to 8? Going down in fixture count, you start omitting fixtures. Going up it's where it can get a little bit to be more of a pain in the ass. So let me delete this guy. So we're gonna clone from our trusses of 6. We're gonna pretend the trusses of 8 don't even exist. So our source movers, we're going to pick our mid-stage washes. I'm gonna store those here, and we're just gonna say mid-stage wash 6. Okay, well, we can't clone straight into 8x4, and actually, let me go ahead and do that and show you what will happen. Save show as 5A. So I'm going to clone. Let me clone the rest of this over. 1201, 1003, 1203, 1005, 1205, 1007, 1207. Okay, and let's back up again here because this is where we're going to start diverging. Okay, so right now, if I clone from a group of 6 to sets of 8, especially since it's multiple rows of 8, we probably have a good idea of how bad this is going to look, but let's just go ahead and show it, because what's more fun than just fucking things up for the hell of it. Alright, so let's go take a look at that song again. So we can, I've definitely seen some flashes of color that already didn't look right. That might have just been a fixed color wheel I forgot to set to. Huh, are our washes? Oh, I hit that wrong button. I need something that's got some wash effects in it, so let me, Also, one thing I keep on hand that, again, is not readily showing right now is I keep fast forward and fast rewind buttons assigned at all times. You can't tell me they're assigned. I'm on the only user profile. Assign. Shortcuts? Nope. We're gonna get there. Oh, I've got shift stuck. Assign you here, assign you here. Just so I can blast through queues really quick. So somewhere in here we're gonna have some wash effects that look like garbage, but I actually have not yet hit them. Yeah, I'm hitting everything that's green washes right now. Well, let's do this. Let me make an effect real quick that will show that, since I clearly don't know where my own wash effects would be located. Okay, so let me just make an effect with big old left to right selection, do a dimmer effect. Cool, wings of 2. And what if I just run that now? It's close. It's close to being right. Do I have my copy effect line macro around? Don't. Extra bummer. Clone, 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 clone. All right, well, you know what? Each individual line is looking close enough to a center out, so that'll give us the idea. I'll answer those questions in just a second. So now let's do this. I'm gonna assign that to a fader. Oh, this must be the one that I screwed up. There we go. Okay, now I'm gonna clone again. 1009, 1209, 1009, 1225. And now when I run this effect and we look at our house fixtures, oh, you guys couldn't see my MA screen that entire time. Well, that was stupid. Anyways, we can see that these guys are not really doing a center out wave so much as just kind of freaking out on their faces because all the instances cloned from the wrong thing. So I'm going to switch this into an overwrite clone for this situation, and let's fix this mapping. So we're cloning from 6. We're going to maintain that, but these guys are going to go away. We're not going to delete them because we still have some use for them for filtering some stuff. So we want to get the center 6 out of these to clone 1 to 1. We're going to start from there. So I'll usually do like temp groups for this. Let me copy my view over here. Another thing I took from Ryan Tanker, I don't know where he got it from, but these screen copy buttons are freaking lifesavers. Like if you need to work with 2 views that generally live on the same screen, you can just copy your screen over and then switch to a new screen, which is just copy screen exit Y. So anyways, so I want just the center 6 of these. So I'm going to say all of this, and actually let's just subtract. Let's go in highlight mode. I'm going to say minus this guy, minus this guy. I'm going to store that here. It's going to be mid-stage wash, and we're going to say 6 times 4 because we have 4 rows of 6, which we can verify in our fixture sheet. We have 6 on instance 1, 6 on instance 2, and down the line. And if I say display selected fixtures, we get 24, which is the product of 6 times 4. So we know we're good. Let's go back into our layout, and let's do the same thing for upstage. So upstage, subtract this, subtract that, and store as upstage wash 6 times 4. All right, now those outer ones. In this case, I've kind of already committed that I'm going to be duplicating the outside lights instead of the inside ones. Had I wanted to duplicate the inside ones, I would have subtracted the center lights from the destination fixtures instead of the outsides. So now I'm going to say, let's say mid-stage wash minus, or the 8 times 4 minus the 6 times 4, which will leave us only our instance versions of the outsides. We can check that in our fixture sheet. We have 2.1s, 2.2s, so on down the line. And that is our outside group. So we'll say mid-stage wash, I'll say like out, and I'll say 2 times 4. And then same thing, I'll say that full range minus the center part, store here, and US wash out 2 times 4. And now all I have to do is grab those outer 2 mid-stage washes again. So we'll go into our movers, and I will grab just these 2, put them in solo mode, and mid-stage wash out 2. Now that we've done that, I can go ahead and delete these guys. I'm going to edit. I actually usually will make a copy of the clone macro if I'm going to do something unusual with it, just so I don't forget those options for later. And I'm going to change all of... actually, yeah, we're going to do it for everything. So we're going to say overwrite, and we're going to say effects are going to be overwrite. And we're going to say sequences are going to be overwrite. Probably wasn't the fastest way I could have done this, but it would have been faster to load an old show file, but I just wanted to show it. Yeah, so we changed all those to overwrite, so all that crap that we put in there before is not going to be maintained. So now I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to use this macro. 1000, actually, let me zoom in on this just so you can see. So there's our 6s to 6s, 2s to 2s. 1009 to 1209. 1009 to 1225. All right, and if I go ahead and switch to MA3D now, we can see that those center 6 lights are now functioning the way we expected them to. So I'm going to continue on with the outer 2. So now that we have split those up, I'll do 1010 to 1210, and then 1010 to 1226. All right. And if we go back over here, so it's not perfect, right? So we can see that that phase is perfectly in sync for those outside 2. And if this effect is super important, also I must have screwed up that effect a little bit on that upstage truss, but if the phase of this effect is super important, I would encourage having it in an updates queue list. But this is definitely better than having just have it split from like center out and have a weird symmetry. This is at least symmetrical minus whatever I did on the effect on that upstage truss. But let's ignore that. Let's look at the mid-stage truss, because that is an issue with the source programming. But that allows us to at least have it symmetrical, at least have it, you know, work together. So if you've got like 400 effects within your show file, like you don't have time to update all of them, so it gives you something symmetrical. Looking into some questions here, what do we got? See if there's a global colors in a fixture. Can you see if there is a global colors in a fixture somewhere? Where's the original question on that? Oh god, there's so many comments. Oh man. Okay, give me a second to catch up here. I assume that only MA3D was from the moment I have already noticed, or rather, I already missed. Oh man, this thing's skipping all over the place. It's hard to read it. With every preset, yes. Oh, okay. So someone is asking, that is Dan asking about saving. So you can't, I guess you could save the selective info. It will store as global. He's asking about that process for getting your global fixture or your preset information into your profile. Man, I'm, oh shit, I've got coffee left. Not much, but it was something. Okay. So that feature was actually something. Oops, that's the chat. You guys can already see that. Yeah, I've got like 5 screens open trying to keep track of everything here. I am very newbie at streaming. So let's talk about that. That is our process for. Yeah, I'll hit that and then I'll go into the updates thing that I was talking about from the other show file. So part of our auto create is that we can actually store preset references into our fixture profile. And again, this is, for me, this is super helpful in situations where like I'm running into a fixture at a festival next week that I'm encountering in a festival today. So how do I work with that so that so I don't have to re-update all of those things? Because part of the problem, like even though like cloning your fixture types does keep it cleaner, the clone engine, it makes some assumptions, and sometimes they're not assumptions you want it to make, but you can't turn it off. For example, open strobe, it will always pick the highest possible DMX value for open strobe when it clones, and a lot of fixture types have like 4 of them. So for one thing, one of my first steps is always go into your fixture profiles from the new fixtures in today's rig and turn on snap for every fixture type for strobe. I have never wanted to fade. I've never wanted to fade my strobe information personally. I can see an argument that'd be helpful for strobing from like medium to fast. I have literally never done it. If other people are, that's fine. That's not the way I've been working. So I go and turn snap on because of that issue, because it will go from closed at 0 and fade all the way to open at 100, and you will get the little strobe dance. I'm sure any of us who have ever cloned more than 2 shows have dealt with the nice smooth blackout, and all of a sudden some fixtures start going into every possible strobe mode before they hit blackout. Actually, I might as well just show that real quick. So for all of these fixtures, I would go in here, and if you don't know, grab a fixture before you hit fixture types, and it'll automatically hone in on that one. We'll hit edit, and we'll find shutter, and we'll turn on snap. And then we'll go down to the next one, and we'll go to edit, we'll go to shutter, we'll turn on snap. I think I might have turned on stage on the previous one. Oops. Pretend I did it right. Because hey, for all we know, I did. Oh. Shutter, snap, and platinum beams. Shutter, 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 shutter. Okay. So we have snap turned on so that we don't have to worry about the fade of strobe hell. Yeah, we'll save that. But regardless of that part, like it can be a little bit more of a pain. Certain strobe things, like you'll pick a really nice range that you like for a certain strobe speed, and it'll pick up that it's near the max end of it, and it's just going to slam all your strobes there. Or some of your gobos, maybe the rotates don't translate the way that you want them to by default. So keeping that information persistent, you could possibly PSR this. I feel like that would be a major pain in the ass because you would be PSRing all of the information from those presets, which is why it would become major pain. So we store it into the fixture profile. 3 minutes later, maybe we'll finally get to it. Auto create. You can say create preset reference. So what this is going to do is basically, good lord, this show file's been through some stuff. What this will do is it'll take, let me show you. Why don't I shut up and show you? So you pick one fixture. So basically, while the goal is to do this with global information, you still have to pick a fixture for it to use, because if some of that information is selective, it will pick up whatever information's there, basically. If you only have selective information, it will still merge it into here as global, but you have to pick one. It can't store, 5 variations of the same preset, right? So we'll pick this one, and I'm going to go with pretty much just my, good lord, I don't need any of that. The general global stuff I'll be updating. So if I have any dimmer presets, which are very rare, that's usually for blinders. Gobos are going to be global. Color, beam, which is generally our strobe information. Focus, and control any lamp on, lamp off, reset stuff. That's all going to be consistent on that fixture. So I'm going to go ahead and say create reference. And actually, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say that. So we're going to say merge. And now, and if we want to get nerdy into the command line, we can even check what this information is. But in our auto create presets, if I scroll down to that spider, you'll notice when I switch between the VL4000 and the spider, this button becomes enabled on the spider because those preset references stored that preset information into the fixture profile. So now I could go in and let's say, I don't know, let's take all of those spiders just to see if we can demonstrate this working. This is screen 2. Let's grab all of our spiders and let's put them into strobe focus. I don't know. Do we even have a strobe mode that works for these? Maybe I need to use a different fixture type. Let's say all VL4000s. Oh, well, not in highlight mode, we sure don't. That didn't work. I know you guys can't see MA3D. I'm trying to find something that's actually that the strobe cloned over worthwhile. Okay, so we're going to use the platinum beams then. So you guys can see that's what we're working with right now. So our beams are strobing. Great. Let's go create references for those platinum beams instead. So auto create preset references, scroll down to our platinum beams, and we have those same options enabled. We are going to create reference, merge. All right, so now we go look over here, and create preset now has the option for from reference. Cool. Now I'm going to go and intentionally screw this up just so we can see that it's working. So I'm going to say, let's grab those platinum beams, put them at full. We're going to put them into fast sync. And now let's just go screw this up. Oh, yeah, now it's open. Great. All right. So now let's pretend like this is the default way that it cloned it, right? Because I was actually having some issue with some of this stuff. So we can see that fast sync is definitely not what we expect it to be. If I go back into, too many buttons to push, our auto create, we will go down to preset, go to the platinum beams. Can I disable all of these at once? Lord. Okay, there's all those. I'm going to switch to from reference, and you can either add global preset or merge. Merge will look based on the naming and try to match any presets in here with a preset in the same pool by the same name. So as long as you're using the same preset names, you're not renaming your presets day to day, this will work great for festivals. But you do have to be mindful, don't rename your shit if you're going to use this feature. So I'll say merge, it'll say created however many global presets. Now if I go put them, well, I'm feeling a little silly because that didn't work. I wonder if it's because there's selective info in here. So if I go to this screen, and sure enough, there's selective info. So I'm going to grab all these and I'm going to say remove. I think that was the right number of, yeah. Double tap on delete, that's remove. And I'm going to say update. Yeah. Let's try that again. So let's look at this. Let's go to our beams, grab some beams, put them at full, and not in highlight. If I hit that and then sync fast, and now it's working. I realized I was in the hybrid view, so it might not have been super easy to see the screen there, but that is how it embeds it in there. Now, getting this from one show file to another is the other major step of that. So two important things to keep in mind here. One, I mean, it's really kind of one step or two steps and one thing to keep in mind. So we're going to export this thing, and I might call it like mode standard presets or something, and I'll go ahead and export this guy, and yeah, I'll export it to my show drive. Okay, let me pull out my show drive. Basically at this point all you would really need to do is import it into another show file. However, for those not aware, sometimes if you want to import it into an older version, let's say you're running version 3.7, the festival was running 3.9 that day. So you export it from 3.9, but your main show file is still in 3.7. To get that back, if I go into my setup here, we were looking for what? Profiles, library. I can adult. Good Lord, I didn't realize this one was so loaded. Presets. Okay. Apparently I do that exact naming system plenty often. Platinum Beam is somewhere in this list. I forget who makes that. Platinum Beam. I actually don't see. Oh, here's, I don't know. crap. Let's just pick one of these because we don't need to kill a bunch of time on this. All I was going to say is if you need to import into an older version, go to that second line, the XML file, and you can change your version number here. This one clearly was exported from 3.7, but like, let's say, I don't know, got a show happening in version 3.0 because that's the kind of day we're having. You go in there, you change that, and it'll let you import it again. Be careful with it. Every now and then you might run into some issues. I personally have yet to run into issues doing this, but again, because I'm not usually exporting back like 11 versions, but just be aware that's a thing you can do if you need to reverse export from anything that uses XML. Okay, what other questions do we got? Yeah, it was elation. I know I'm dumb. Zoom, enable invert. Show the invert macro. Oh, questions on using the invert macro. I don't need to save any of that. It's really just the keyword invert. I don't think there's a keyboard way to access it. If there is, it was not in the help menu and I've never found it. But yeah, this invert macro is literally just the word invert. The @ sign before means it'll keep whatever else was in the command line already, and the one after means it'll let you type something after. That's the whole macro there. Same thing with my if macro. It's just the if keyword, just because I don't like hitting the if key 4 times to get to it. That's it. That's all that is. Let me read through here real quick. Invert macro. Yes, no. Snap covered. I only have one fixture per layer. From chat, would you recommend to use as a base for cloning in terms of the... Oh, what would I recommend to use? You know, that's actually a pretty good question. Really, when it comes to washes, you think about all of the things that you're going to run into on the road, or basically the most common things you're going to run into, and try to account for a fixture that has all of those things, because you can always subtract, but you can't cross clone to add, right? That's not a feature in MA2. So saying cross clone as in like I can't clone, let's say, well, I can't clone shutter into shutter 2 or dim into dim 2, God forbid. Yeah, in case this needs to be said, like, just never use a fixture with dim 2 on it. Like, just there are so many other things that are better to do with your time, like picking your fingernails off with a pair of pliers than dealing with dim 2. I like literally I can't express how much I fucking hate dim 2. So just like tweak your profile for an extra instance or something. Just don't use it. Let's see. Jesus Christ, I got derailed there. Okay, so one issue I was running into with a prior tour was that the programmer had set it up with he did his palettes with basically doing like all of his shutter options, so like 0 through 100 in increments of 20, and then strobe duration 0 to 100, and then strobe mode, like it had like a random mode, a sync mode, versus fixtures where that's kind of all living within one channel. And the problem with having the presets built separately with that was that anytime, so a shutter of 20 was always a shutter of 20, but if that was combined with a strobe mode, a random, and a strobe duration of, I don't know, 0 minimum, that looks the same as when it's combined with a strobe mode of sync and strobe duration of 100, which would function as open shutter on a JDC. When I clone that, it's all just going to show up as strobe 20. So I started combining those presets so that like this is really more getting into the idea of like how you build your presets. But I built it so that there was a preset that included all 3 of these parameters called, let's say, random strobe 20, right? Or sync strobe 20, so that when these 2 were absent, this was still referencing a specific preset to that situation that I could update for strobe fixtures that only had that one attribute. And so you can always boil down, combine parameters in a way that makes sense to what their specific purpose is. I understand the process of like keeping these separate, because like if you're working in a strobe palette, oftentimes what you're going to want to be doing is like they could be wanting to go like, I want this speed but in random mode, and I want this duration, and I fully understand working that way when you're trying to like tweak and figure out what's going to look best in that moment. However, Sorry, just derailed trying to read comments at the same time. That just kind of causes problems when you're trying to update palettes later. So I always work with trying to keep my presets in a way that's specific to what they're doing. For example, on Gobo presets, first off, I keep all wheels in all presets. All of my rotates are in each of my rotate presets. All of my Gobo selections are in each of those selection presets. If I'm using a Gobo from wheel 2, Gobo wheel 1 is also in open at the same time and stored into that preset, because if I'm cloning from a fixture that has 3 Gobo wheels into a fixture that only has 1, and I only put information in there from Gobo wheel 3, you know how many fixtures have Gobo wheel 3? Not a lot, which makes you want to rip your damn hair out. So by combining them all into that preset, you have put information from a different wheel in there, even if that's not the wheel that you're focusing on, which allows you, when you clone down to a fixture that only has 1 Gobo wheel, you can substitute that with something, and that preset will be referenced. To get back into the question of what I would suggest cloning from, I know there's a lot of the time, like, there's the philosophy of just clone from something that's got like all of the parameters. I don't fully disagree with that. Just make sure that if you're going to do something that has a lot of parameters, that it's not going so overkill and your presets aren't so convoluted that it actually screws up your cloning. One example is a solo spot has that same kind of strobe structure where you have a strobe speed, and I don't think it has duration, but it does have a strobe mode. You can switch between random or synced or pulse or whatever other options it has. Totally fine to work from that, but make sure that each of your strobe, that you have your presets built in such a way, like, you know, random strobe min, random strobe medium, random strobe fast, sync medium, sync fast, I kind of keep it the way I've got it listed right here, rather than having that strobe mode channel split off, because your cloning will be kind of worthless on that channel once you have split it that way. A VL3000 is great for a number of Gobo wheels if you want to be able to clone into something else that has 3 Gobo wheels and have all 3 of them available. For spots, that's a super handy one just for the sheer number of Gobo wheels that it uses. I want to say a Mac Viper profile also has 3, although I think it does not have rotation on the 3rd one, whereas a VL3000 does. Washes, I just kind of pick any generic wash fixture unless I'm trying to maintain some pixel stuff. Again, like, this kind of gets back into what you're going to be working with, what kind of situations you're going to clone into. If you're going to be working with major like A-level, double A-level festivals where the smallest rig you're going to have is, I don't know, like 200 fixtures, you can afford to have some pixel mapping information in your show file, or not pixely stuff happening on the faces of your lights, because you have a lot more guarantee that you're going to use that. On a tour where you're going between clubs, that's just not going to be the case. So there's no point in having that kind of information in there. So having a maxed out wash fixture with all of the instances isn't really going to do you any good in that situation. So it's kind of, I hate to do a cop out of like, it's just dependent on what you're doing, but it's very much kind of that thing. I would pick something that kind of goes just beyond the bounds of what you're expecting to use, and then you can always dial it back in from there. Just, you know, also don't program crazy for something you will never get to use. There's no point programming a set of matrix blinders into your clone source file if you're going to have one venue in a 5-month tour that has them. I hope that like answered that question. I kind of wasn't looking at the screen when I was saying it. Let me take a look here and see what else we've had coming in. Color preset, clone, right? Gobo presets. Gobo preset. Okay, it looks like that's been answered. Let's see. Okay. Well, let me go into like my update process on that first tour, and that might be the end of. I don't know if we're gonna have many more questions coming up. And yes, for people asking, this should be saved. I don't know if it'll be this exact same URL, but this is pretty much going to go live as a video you can rewatch as soon as we end the stream, which has made it 2 hours. I didn't think I'd have that much hot air, but here we are. What the hell was I doing? Oh, I was going to open up that other file. Okay. So this is the Trevor Allstrand file. Let me go ahead and save. I don't know. I'm just going to put a B on this. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. Load show. Let's get into that other tour rig. Yeah. Okay, really the thing I wanted to show from this one was just kind of the updates process. This was a much larger rig to... Standby. That ain't right. It's definitely the file we were just on. Yeah, probably shouldn't have swapped those names last minute. That was kind of dumb. Cloning Gobo presets will allow me to have my sequences work. Still have to fix the right value. I'm not sure if this is answering your question, Cedric, but essentially, like what I was getting at with the Gobo stuff is just as far as what you're storing into your God, brain fart trying to read things at the same time. As far as getting things in your sequence is just to include all of your Gobo wheels in your Gobo presets. And I split it by like Gobo selection are all in one and Gobo rotates are all in one. I don't merge those two together. But just so that you can clone, essentially you can clone from one Gobo wheel to another because they're all being activated at the same time in a queue list. Since you put all those parameters into that sequence or into that queue, into that preset, and then you called that preset, all of those Gobo wheels were activated at the same time in that preset. So you can change which wheel you want to use after you clone when you're updating your Gobo presets. So you can pick a breakup from a different wheel than might have been on the source fixture. So cool. So all I wanted to show from this one really was just kind of when I had a lot more fixtures to be updating, I would be going through. Okay. And yeah, that was the point of that, was so that like, because Gobo wheel 1 might not. Oh yeah, no, like you're not going to have the same slot from each one. So like once you clone, you're going to go through and like update. So you have a breakup, it's just going to pick slot 1. You want to then edit that preset so you actually pick a breakup so it's something similar to what the original information was. Anyways, as far as this was going, basically I had a queue list set up for like festivals where there was just a lot of information to get through. I mean, you look at like some of these, and there's a good chance I could have gotten some of these dialed down a lot more. I'm seeing a lot of like different rotation presets coming up through here. Basically, the idea is all of my global stuff, I would put that in one giant ass queue stack. And then I would use group masters so that I could basically blast through a queue list so that all of my rig is doing the same thing at the same time. And I can just use my group masters to kind of bring up and bring down certain fixture types at once to see, okay, well, it looks like these are all doing the same thing. Let's move on to the next queue. And okay, they're all doing the same thing. And oh God, okay, like this fixture type is freaking out, or this one is stuck in open, be the most common thing. So I can blast through all of my presets at once without having to worry about which fixtures I had selected. So like rather than like going into, just to give some contrast here, rather than going into my groups and saying like, okay, let me grab all my spots and let me check. I didn't tell you to do that. Let me grab all my spots and let me put them in open. Okay, let me put them in this. Okay, let me put them in that. Okay, they're all good. But really, I guess it's more the issue, like if I had that and the hybrids and my washes and whatever, like sure, some nitros grabbed at the same time, and I'm testing through some colors. And okay, well, oh, one of those isn't looking right. Oh, now I've got to clear my selection, and crap, where'd that go? And I've got to re-grab everything. That could very much just be a matter of my group organization sucks ass. Like that could actually be the main that could be like the actual issue with that. But like for me, it was just easier to have it all set up in a queue list so I could just blast through it and update it and know that I had covered everything. Going back to that view, And I would do that, so like all my global presets, and then I would put like I would put all of my specials in a queue list, and I would even use this queue list with the MA web remote, so you can see that like I'm setting a variable here, and that interacts with a whole bunch of stuff on the web remote page that I had set up, just so that I can quickly blast through any specific fixtures that use a given preset, because there were a lot of presets that had more fixtures than actually got used. So I would, you know, boil that down to only the fixtures that need updating, and then keep that in a queue list so I could blast through. And then if I'm doing it from a console, I can also use these color coding macros. So like if I select this guy, I hit green. Oh, that's kind of supposed to, oh, there is Q green. Woo! There we go. Is it not working? Huh. I can't see my colors. Yeah, I can't see them. Anyways, the thing works somewhere along the line. It's been so damn long since I've used this, but I would color code the cues so that I could see, okay, these have been updated. This one hasn't been updated yet. A couple of these I need to come back to when XYZ is out of the way on the stage. Yeah, I guess that's kind of the whole process for there. And then I would have a separate one for our video stuff. Any presets that were applicable to a video wall, if we were using the house wall that day, I would have to go through that and make sure all of the clips are adjusted correctly between my end and the media server to be sized appropriately for the wall, because I definitely screwed that up a few times before I figured out what was going on there. Yeah, and then I'd actually just keep some empty queue lists of just reminders for shit that I need to check, because I have a goldfish memory, and especially after the 4th day in a row on like 4 hours of sleep. Oh, let's see. Can you use the update button? Wait, what? Oh, that's not a question. That is a response. Okay. Okay. Oh, we might have derailed a bit. Do we have any other like questions regarding update process? I know I didn't like really get too deep into like the update. Once you've cloned, it's really just like you go through your presets and you make sure that they represent what they're supposed to be doing. I don't think there's really a whole lot of nitty gritty involved there. That really the meat and potatoes of that one is how you built those presets in the first place. In this particular file, an example I was going to give earlier, wherever my Gobo presets are, it's kind of a mess. For example, I added in these Gobo snap presets. So originally, Trevor had put in, like, he was snapping from one Gobo to another, and for our touring rig, that was great. It looked the way that it was intended to. When I was cloning the other rigs, however, whatever I would pick for those two Gobos that would look right for them for aerial purposes would have other Gobos in between oftentimes. So since that was for a specific effect of just snapping back and forth to whatever Gobo was next to it, I made a separate preset for that, because the purpose of the preset wasn't the aerial pattern it was creating. The purpose was to have two Gobos with a solid amount of throughput side by side, that I could just snap between. So even though they some days may represent the same Gobos as something done for aerial purposes, on other days they may not. And the purpose of snapping back and forth is the focus in that particular song for that effect. So there's more to, I guess all that to say, like, there's a lot more to your presets than just like what it's doing, but or rather which Gobo you have selected maybe, but what the effect of that Gobo is. Let's see. I can't think of anything else. I think I'm kind of rambling. Zach seems to have been doing a pretty solid job kind of responding to the comments, which is why I don't think I see much that hasn't been answered. So let's just kind of throw it out there. Any like last minute questions? If there's anything that like I've just missed in the comments, like, because I'm seeing Zach respond. So like if I've missed anything, let me know, so I can go ahead and address that before we get off. Damn. All right, it has been brought to my attention that maybe I have spoken a little too much because, well, this was just delivered to me. So, damn. That was just mean. But good. It's strong, goddamn. That was super professional, right? The after show, well, I think I just started it with that one. Good lord, my eyes are watering. Wasn't ready for that. Cool. Well, I had a bunch of other plots put in that folder that I was going to go through. I think we kind of covered really the backbones of it, but feel free to dig through those because those are examples of some real life stuff that I've actually like hit on the road. Just as a quick couple of things I did want to kind of cover. I know I keep saying I'm going to end it. Just like there's not even anything like for the purposes of explaining stuff that I wanted to hit, but this was from Light Source for Tortuga last year. For anybody who's like building rigs for festivals, I just want to point out, like, just from my perspective, how much I appreciate a situation where everything is not only symmetrical, but your fixture counts from truss to truss are the same. I know that can limit some like creativity, but the fact that I had 6 beams on each truss, 6 spots on each truss, 6 washes on each truss, the amount of time it took for me to update my file, especially updating positions, good lord, it was so much easier with that kind of a setup. So I just kind of really want to bring this up, like if you're hitting like a really big stage, like this is like kind of one of the ideal situations that you could run into. That's not to say that the more artistic stages are bad, but they're definitely more difficult to work with, and which can be a problem depending on your time. I also love some of the more artistic ones as long as I can actually figure out how to do them. It's one of those that like I only curse it when I don't feel like I'm actually smart enough to figure out how to use it. So I guess that's really more of a me thing some days. But there's a couple other plots here. Like give them some tries, like just for practicing cloning some stuff of your own. Again, this was me touring country. This rig was for a act that was playing bigger stages, was touring with a bigger stage. A lot of these smaller ones were actually, this was from the same tour, so it's kind of a mix in here. The Tortuga one's definitely the biggest one I put in here. The rest of it is definitely some smaller plots or some smaller stages I've worked with in comparison. Time in the US, it is in Central Time 2:16. I've been blabbing my mouth for 2.5 hours. Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Bobby was the first person to ever use one of my plugins. We bumped into each other Hangout my very first year doing anything. Yeah, see, and that was why I wanted to do it at noon. I knew it wasn't the best time here, but I figured time zones I could hit, it would kind of be ideal to start it here because like we're getting like 9:15 over in Germany. I might delay for a couple of hours next time around. I'm sorry to the guys in Australia. I can't fit everybody. I don't mean to like put you guys on the short end of the stick. Yeah, let's see. I think that's it. So I'm going to shut the fuck up. And you guys feel free to dig through those files from the Dropbox and use them. I hope this has actually been helpful. I apologize for the amount of rambling. This is the kind of shit that gets cut out of the videos when I edit them. So anybody who sat through this whole thing, appreciate you guys managing it. I know I'm a little bit long-winded. My brain goes like every direction at once, which can be helpful. Maybe not the best for explaining things, but yeah. So hope this has been helpful for you guys. I'm gonna shut up and cut the stream off, and hope it helps. We're gonna have, like I've mentioned before, Elliot Mountford and Chris Toms and Jared Paul Rarick. Again, I hope I got his names in the right order. On next week to go through their own processes, and I can pretty much guarantee you they will be able to cover their methods in much fewer words and time than I have done. So don't let this discourage you from checking in on those. I'm probably the longest winded that we're going to have for a while. But check those out next week. Hope this helps. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to see improved, changed for the next time. If it's just me talking less, I'll try to figure out some ways to do that. If there's any things as far as like things you see displayed, access to links, certain kinds of information you want available during the live stream, please let me know. I'm more than happy to try to accommodate that. I want this to be as helpful to as many people as possible as it can be. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole point of bringing other people in, because my way isn't the only way. It's MA. You can skin a cat 100 ways. If you're skinning your cats, you should definitely get psychological help, but that's not neither here nor there. Just, you can do things a million different ways. I think it's great to see how everybody does their things, because what works for one person isn't going to work for somebody else. So check out what other people are doing. Check out what Christian Jackson's doing. Check out what any of the guys we got coming out next week are doing. There's so many great people on Facebook that just probably don't have the time to explain some of their stuff a lot of the time, but they it's one of those things, like everybody you meet generally knows something you don't. That preset references thing, I learned that from some random house guy that I thought didn't know where the damn power button was on the console. So like, everybody has something to teach you if you are paying attention. So definitely check out what other people are doing, and let me know any improvements. Shutting up for real. Have a great day, everybody. Yeah, I'm sure.